Hi, I'm RC Jim, and I hate to tell you this, but the unthinkable has happened to this beautiful plane. We had the maiden flight. The maiden flight lasted 5 seconds. Here's how it went. Yeah, let's see what we can do. We got the little Cessna type thing out of the way. Let's get taxied up to the other end. Okay, runway's clear, taking off left to right. Oh, anybody got a bucket? Is there a bucket? Fortunately, our Radiomaster transmitter does a great job of recording data. And so we've got a flight log, like a little black box to tell us what happened. That's great as far as helping us to work out what happened. It's a bit humbling with regard to, sometimes the mind and the body don't act as quickly and properly as what they ought to. But hey, this is about each of us learning. And mistakes that I make, well, I make the mistakes, and I'm hoping that both you and I can learn from them. So anyway, here is our flight log. And so you can see I've shown the time there from the when I started the throttle. And so you can see at 5 seconds, well, at 4 seconds, the tail wheel is lifted up off the ground. At 5 seconds, the left wheel has lifted up, and that begins the liftoff of the plane. And the other comments are there. As you see the values over on the right, those are a plus or a minus 1,024. And I've actually converted those to percentages for a bit of an analysis that I did, in that sometimes those things look pretty big, but when you look at them as a percentage of 1,000, they're pretty small. So what we're going to do first off is I'm going to show you a slow motion video. I'm going to make comments of what was happening during that, and then we'll go back and do some further analysis of what went on. So we've lined up and ready to go. We apply the throttle. We get moving along. After a little bit here, the tail starts to lift up a bit. We're letting off on the aileron. We're letting off on the elevator. We get to neutral, and it starts to take off, banking a little bit to the right. We try correcting, but we use the rudder mostly, and then we throw in the aileron. And it's headed for the sky, but that aileron is now sending it way around to the left. Elevator is still pretty neutral. We throw in then right aileron to try and straighten it out. Give about a second and a half worth of right aileron at 100%. It's swooping way around. By now we've got the down elevator in, and we end up for a little bit here with down elevator and neutral aileron, but it doesn't fly inverted very well, and just keeps on going around until it hits the ground. So what I've done is I've taken some screenshots of the video. This is my video over here. And then I've got corresponding screenshots from the video of a club member. Okay, so these are in half-second intervals, so everything is happening really quick here. Okay, that's a half second, this is 1 second into it, all of that. So as we get started, this is where the left wheel has just picked up off the ground. just the beginning of our liftoff. At this point in time, the elevator is 1% up, aileron is 1% to the left, rudder is 8% to the left, and the throttle is about half. So it's starting to bank to the right. It's lifting off the left wheel. Tail wheel had come off the ground a second and a half earlier, and around that time when the tail lifted up, pretty well all of the elevator was released. It just has a tiny bit of up, but there's certainly not much into it. And you know, as you look at this here, you know, it looks as straight as you can be, really. Okay, so it's lifted up. Half second later, boy, it's really coming up. It's still banked a tiny bit to the right. Elevator is pretty neutral still. Aileron, I've got 8% left in there, but my brain is still in the mode of taxiing, and I've put in left rudder, okay, which should also be correcting things. Throttle is just a tiny bit above half now. But boy, it's just rapidly jumped in the air. Really surprised me. I wasn't expecting it to get off so quickly. And this angle of climb has, you know, started out gradually and just continues to increase. It's like following a roller coaster track going up. Just really, really extreme as to what's happening here just within 1 second of takeoff. I felt at this time that the ailerons weren't responding. It was, you know, I've given it a little bit of left, and again, my brain was a little bit cross-wired here, but I'm thinking I'm giving it left aileron and not much is happening. So I really put on the left aileron here. I go to 61% left aileron. I've still got a lot of rudder in there, half of the rudder in there. The throttle is still holding just above half. Elevator is still neutral, and I'm focusing mainly on trying to level out the plane. But what happens, instead of just simply leveling out the plane, I go in the next half second, it goes to a 90-degree left-hand bank, and we're still climbing at about a 45-degree angle. Throttle is now up to 65%. By this time I realized, hey, this thing should not be climbing so rapidly, and I've got 44% down elevator in there. I haven't released the aileron just yet. My responses aren't quite that quick. Keeping in mind from here, where it's nearly level, to here is a half second, okay? So it takes me another half second to respond, and now I've gone from 72% left aileron to 44% right. Here we had both the rudder and the aileron in. My brain has finally figured out, well, okay, let's let off the rudder. So just a tiny bit of left still in there. Throttle is now up to 72%, and I've got a little bit of down elevator in it, but not a lot. Okay, another half second later, we've basically got it leveled out, you know. Boy, if I could have just left it there, wouldn't that have been great, you know? Reasonably level as far as the attitude of the plane, and almost corrected. You know, keep in mind it had banked way around to the left, and now it's come around and it's almost leveled out. But by this time, my thumb has gone all the way over to 100% right. Rudder pretty neutral, throttle up there about 2/3 of the way. Elevator, I've got 21% down in it, which ought to be helping a little bit. But what happens is, because I got so much aileron in there now, it's really responding. Yes, those ailerons do work. And the next half second, it's rotated more than 90 degrees, you know. And this is happening so rapidly, it's hard to get the exact frame as to, you know, when that half second is. But, you know, the thing is, just bang, you know, it's to the right. So what do? Well, we cut off the aileron, but we've done it a half second too late. No rudder in there. We're inverted now, and we've got half down elevator in it, which one would hope would bring the plane nose up, but it didn't. At this stage, I don't know whether the airspeed was adequate to really do an awful lot, but it seemed to me like it was going pretty quick. So I think it's actually flying. It's just going crazy due to my wild inputs that I'm giving it and what weird things are happening in the plane. It's going over the top and getting ready to go down. Following this, I've got 100% left aileron in it the next half second up until the time it crashes, which is, maybe a second or so after this. But 100% left until it hits. In going down, I see very little roll going back. It's not like going up where just in a half second it snapped 90 degrees. Going down, you don't see really much happen until it really gets close to the ground. It's sort of, we're a little bit angled that way, and as it's going down, it sort of comes around to maybe just a little bit beyond the even wing point. It goes down pretty straight. So I suppose that's due to lower airspeed, but certainly as it's going down, it's picking up a lot of speed. It's got 70% throttle. So that's one of those things I don't really understand, is why the aileron was so responsive when it was going up and so unresponsive when it was going down. Maybe you've got some ideas there. Okay, what sort of conclusions do we have? Well, first off, as you think about this takeoff, basically we've got neutral elevator and it's going up like crazy. Very clearly the center of gravity is too far to the back. Now, as you think about that particular thing, let's have a look at the weight and balance of this during the build. Okay, during the build, when basically I got everything all together, did everything, but it didn't have the paint or the decals on it, but it had everything else in place, the motors, the cowls, the 6S battery all the way forward, which is where I'd placed it in the plane. And this is what the center of gravity looks like. As you look at that, you see the red line going down the middle. I've put that in there with the Photoshop type software, and I've put it right in line with the rope that it's hanging from. So the center of gravity is someplace along that line. Where you see the little circles, those are the balance points that I've calculated. And based on the area of the wing and so forth, those are the points where I decided ought to be balanced at either 25% back or 33% back. And to me, that looks pretty reasonable, and I think it ought to fly. Now, the possibility is that maybe during taxiing, the battery is jiggled backwards. The battery is in a little tub. So a little box with open top. It's snug on each side, and on the bottom there is a piece of Velcro. Now it's not solid Velcro across the entire bottom, but there is a piece of Velcro there that is meant to keep it from sliding forward or backward. And I wasn't planning on flying this plane upside down, so there's actually no strap over it. And that's no doubt a mistake, in that it would be great to know that that battery definitely could not move, and I can't say that's the case. To me, on the taxiing, it doesn't really look like it is bouncing enough to knock the battery backwards, but clearly on takeoff, the CG is too far back. So either I've miscalculated the spot where it should be, or the battery is shifted back, or there's a stowaway on board. I don't know what, but that's number one conclusion. Okay, the next thing is the zigzag. Due to very responsive ailerons and over control by me. Now, initially I thought I wasn't getting aileron response, and so that's why I was being so aggressive with it. But it's hard to say what I should have done in a matter of, a couple of seconds, but obviously I should have figured that out. And it probably would have helped in figuring it out if I actually would have gone to 100% throttle and kept the nose straight up, because this thing actually has a greater than a 1-to-1 thrust to weight ratio, and I could actually accelerate going straight up. But but anyway, it was humming along pretty good. Had a lot of thrust, no question about that. Plenty for normal type flying. But anyway, the zigzag was due to very responsive ailerons, due to a misconception by me, and that was largely because I started pushing the rudder instead of the ailerons. One would think that would end up doing the same thing, but this one does not seem to be very responsive at all to rudder inputs, at least not in the air. Okay. Next observation is it all happened very, very fast, very, very quick movements, half second to do a 90-degree roll, you know, and all stuff that you did not expect, and it's really hard to think that quick. I note that just from looking at the pictures, it's really hard to see the deflection of the elevator, and that's true when it's on the ground as well. And so I don't know that I actually measured that. It certainly moves. But you know, there's not a lot of elevator travel. It certainly could use a lot more. I also note that the flaps were down. You see that silhouette there? And it's obvious in more obvious in other pictures. Flaps are down. With flaps down, that moves the center of lift forward a little bit, which would exacerbate anything that's happening with regard to weight and balance. But keep in mind, these flaps are just on the bottom of the wing. They're just a very small segment of the wing. So I don't know that that would be enough to have any significant input. Just one other thought with regard to the center of gravity location. With these two big motors on each side over this fat part of the wing, you know, normally you'd have one up here and you'd have a little bit down each side, but I think with a twin engine and a lot of air blowing by this fat part of the wing, it might mean that a lot more lift is being created in here in the middle as compared to out on the ends, and that would tend to say that the center of lift is going to be farther forward. You know, the back of the wing is straight and the front of the wing is swept back. So the front of the wing is generating lift farther forward than the outsides of the wing. So that might be a reason for moving the center of gravity a little bit farther forward. Okay, I do note that looking at one of the later videos that there was a bit of a tailwind. Me and others were all flying this normal left-hand pattern at our field that is most common. But that wasn't an issue. You know, this wasn't a stall on takeoff or something like that. This was a crazy fly all over the place type thing. Well, I'll leave you with some pictures of the plane as it was before all of this happened. Oh, for, you know, being able to do something like this over again. You know, it would be so wonderful to be able to know all of these things before I did it, make some adjustments, and have a much better outcome. But I'm sharing it with you, and I'm reminding myself of what's happened here, so that perhaps on another plane, on another flight, that we might be able to do a bit better. But thank you so much for watching. Appreciate your thoughts on my behalf. Building the plane was wonderful, and I enjoyed every bit of it, and the outcome was absolutely fabulous in terms of the build. So I feel really good about that, and that's a good thing, even though I'd really love to be flying my plane. Well, thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Click on my little picture on the left there, and have a look at some of the other videos on the channel there on the right. You have a great day, and enjoy your flying and do a bit better than what I did.